Hi, I'm Serena Reynolds from Conceptiv.
And my name is Sarah Ferrer, and I am the former CEO and founder of Zoe Coco.
And this is Fearless and Flawed, Women in Charge.
Yes, this is our second official podcast. If you have not listened to our first episode, we Serena and I work together. We both own our own respective businesses. We've worked together. And through those long, long hours where the projects had to get done, we realized that there were stories to tell through our experiences in business, through what we've learned as being business women, but more so women in charge, women responsible for shit, and how we managed that, how we got through it, and the lessons we've learned along the way. So today I have the honor of interviewing Serena. I know Serena as a unicorn in all things design. She is a graphic design. I hate to just say graphic designer because it's like, oh, she makes pretty things. No. She does more than that. And she's the most humble person I know. So I have to say this because it's worth its weight in gold. You do it all. You design. You have a strategy mind. You understand how to build websites. You understand the customer experience. You have the artistic touch. You are a unicorn. And I want to know, where did it all begin? Where did the greatness of Serena begin when it came to your entrepreneurial journey?
So that's Sarah's my biggest fan. And I can't tell you how much I love the way that she sells me. Which is one of the reasons I'm doing this podcast with her, is because she's so much better at talking about me than I am. So where do I start? So I'm based in London in the UK. I think that's probably a good place to start. And I originally started up in advertising, and then I dropped into the .com era. So giving some indication that I'm old. It's all good. And from there, I just let life and my career take me down whatever path it kind of wanted to take me. I never really took charge of it. And I was just very lucky. I did some amazing projects. I worked with some amazing people, and some big companies, some small companies. Like I said, it was the .com era. So I worked with startups. I worked with huge organizations, huge blue chip organizations, that I wouldn't have normally worked with in any other industry. But just because of where I was, the time it was, I managed to work with these companies.
What did you do with what projects were you working on? What were you getting your feet wet with?
Well, it was the .com era. So nobody knew what was going on. Nobody knew where to take it. So it was an absolutely fabulous time for innovation. Mm-hmm. People, I remember talking about first dating sites, tracking sat nav type applications. We mobile phones were just becoming more and more prevalent in everyday life, and apps. So there was, everything was new. Absolutely everything was new, and everybody was trying everything.
What did you love about it? It seems like a lot was going on. So to some people, that reads as chaos. Some people would say, okay, nearest exit door, thank you. But other people like yourself said, ooh, this is good. It's kind of chaotic. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of new stuff. What attracted you to that? What made you say, this is something I want to be part of?
Well, like I said, it was accidental. It was accidental. That's the best way to put it. I was working in advertising. There was a lot of travel involved, and day-to-day travel. And I was a junior. The money was not great. It was not worth my time. The 6 hour traveling a day, 3 hours there, 3 hours back on a on a junior salary. It was hard. So I literally applied for a job as a graphic designer for a very small internet company that was down the road. And so I I got the job. And I think one of my first questions was, this is how long ago it was. My first question when I was in the interview is, okay, can you explain email to me? I don't know what email is.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So
The
that
only
was,
people that ask that now are your 100-year-old grandmother.
I
You know,
know.
what's email? Yeah, but at the time that was like a common question, right? Email, who, what?
What's email? I mean, we were an internet company. We were a .com company. We had one email for the whole office, one email address, just
Oh,
one.
that's awesome.
It's like it was so early. It was so early. Like I said, it was very experimental. And for me, I loved solving problems. My thing
Mm,
was always solving problems. The thing with working in advertising was how do I get more people to do something? How do I
mhm,
get somebody's attention? So that was where my passion was. So when I was in this .com era, in the internet space, there was, there was no e-commerce. It didn't exist. So people were thinking, how do we make money from the internet? What do we do? How do we do this? And it was all brand new. So for somebody like me who loves a challenge and loves technology and loves to solve problems, this was a perfect space for me. It was very challenging. It was Nothing was the same. No 2 days were the same.
right.
And yeah.
That's
So
so your personality. That's working with you. You are, I think, where I refer to you as a unicorn, and I am your hype woman, but that is because it's worth its weight in gold. Um, you have this unique, when you speak of your experience, you have this unique way, like you said, you like to solve problems. It's not just painting pretty pictures. You like to solve problems. You like to understand a process. You like to understand who, what, why, where, when it comes to the bigger idea, right? Spearheading the strategy behind it. And so it sounds like you're in the middle of all this newness, all these exciting things, but eventually you decide, I'm going to start my own business. Which again, hearing your story up to this point, I feel like, little Serena, she's out there, she's got big wide open eyes. She's open for the challenge. You're hustling, you're getting it done. Where does I'm going to become a business owner become part of the story?
and just as right from the very beginning, I was an accidental entrepreneur.
Yeah.
As the .com era grew, it crashed, as
Okay.
many people probably know. I mean, you know, a lot of these projects didn't make money. There was a lot of investors throwing money at things and at these new projects, and not all of them were successful. We see the successful ones still today, but there was for everyone that succeeded, there was 100 that failed. And the VCs and people that were investing kind of stopped investing. Bit of a market crash, especially as it got easier and more people learned how to do it. You started having kids in their bedrooms saying, "Oh, I can knock out a website for you for like £10, fiver," kind of. Sorry, English again here.
We'll
um,
convert. We'll convert after. It's cheap.
yeah, they were offering it very cheap. So basically the market that market died out. So the company that I was working with actually specialized and did really well and continued, got through the big crash and continued to thrive in its own little space. Um, but the type of jobs changed. They specialized, that we were going down a particular path. Business decisions were more strategic, and so the work wasn't as varied. We certainly weren't doing the first dating sites anymore. We were specializing. Not so much interest for me. And then one day, not unexpectedly, I got made redundant.
You got
But
what?
it was I got made redundant, which was actually okay, so is that not an American term?
No.
It's
You've been made redundant.
basically your job doesn't they no longer require you.
Oh,
So the
you got laid
company
off.
pays you out.
Okay.
So it's redundancy. You get redundancy. So
Okay.
but it was an unusual redundancy. They sort of like said to me, okay, because we're looking at selling this company, what we'll do is we don't actually want to lose your skills. We'll hire you as a contractor. So it was, I had a little payout and I got offered this contracting role and I thought, okay, that was the start of my entrepreneurial journey. I literally lost my job and they offered to pay me to keep me around to keep me going. And that's what I did. So and I've been there ever since. That was a really long time ago now.
Just for perspective, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, ballpark it.
I'm trying to work it out quickly in my head, but probably about 20 years ago.
So you basically make lemonade out of lemons, right? It's all kind of sounds like it worked in the moment, but it was accidental, as you said, right? It just kind of happened. You kind of went with the current. Now you are a quote unquote business owner, right? This is when you start Conceptiv.
Yeah. I had various different names, but yes, pretty much.
Okay.
Yes.
So you become the entrepreneur, the business owner.
I'm more of a freelancer position.
Freelancer.
Yeah.
Do you have people? Are you building a team at this point? Are you still kind of the only person
at all.
that? Yeah, tell me about that.
I didn't build a team until probably the start of COVID.
Wow. So you were really
a really long time. So there I was freelancing and I'm getting all excited again. I get this opportunity now to start choosing who and when I work. And I really like that freedom. At the time I had a two-year-old son. So I kind of was like, okay, right, how do I make this work? So I just did. And like I said, I got excited about the kind of projects I could take on. I was no longer stuck in this B2B business world that was trying to survive. I was still trying to survive, but I was surviving on my own. So I got to do, I had a lot more freedom and that let me be creative and think other entrepreneurial ideas that I could kind of push along the way. So, I started a few things, failed at lots of things and enjoyed
Let's talk about that. Because here's the thing, when I'm hearing the story, it's like, and I know your talent and I know what you're capable of, but from the outside, it's easy to say, well, of course, Serena is going to be successful. She's so talented, right? Which many of us have that kind of that from the outside. Of course, you'll make it work. But I have to imagine there's failure, there's fear, there's challenges. I want to hear about that. I know that you have the talent, but how are you getting clients? How are you building a team during COVID? Who is Serena as the leader, the quote unquote boss versus just being kind of the creative, right? How do those two roles intersect? So let's double click on that because so far it's like, this is great. But you mentioned a son, a baby. You mentioned, trying to just keep afloat. So what are some of the early failures that you went through as the businesswoman, maybe even as feeling, failure as a mother, perhaps having a bit balancing that? What did that look like?
I was really lucky with my son and the situation that I was in. My parents were like mostly retired, so they were very supportive and looked after my son a lot for me during the day. I could also work from home a lot and around him. So that was my primary focus. And at the time, I dabbled a little bit with e-commerce, doing baby things myself, because obviously I was in that mummy bubble. So I would, I was taking on more roles. I was trying to create something that would fit around the life I wanted with my son, not necessarily a financial thing, but more of a personal development thing. So I was focused around that a lot. My biggest failures came from when I trusted other people. So this is
okay. Now we're getting somewhere.
getting deep now.
Yeah, that just struck a chord with me. It's like, yep, continue.
So I kind of positioned myself in a way that, I would partner with people and help them excel in their business. And I was quite good at it, to be honest, not to blow my own trumpet. And like I said, I liked solving problems. I liked getting into the weeds. I liked developing new strategies and seeing where it takes me. So yeah, now I've lost the and where we were going with this question. So
about the failure of which I think is so relatable, of once you kind of overly trusted people, you found that like that was actually the beginning of the end when it came to, the maybe the lack of expectations or not meeting, having the same expectations, or feeling like, I know you.
So for me, the trusting in somebody was, I found myself in a few situations where I was no longer the leader. I was almost treated like an employee, and that wasn't ever my aim or my position or what I wanted to do. So that's where my failures came in, and that's where, self-doubt and stuff like that would creep in. I suffered terribly from imposter syndrome. Doing this podcast is huge for me. Speaking out loud and doing this kind of thing and opening myself out is completely alien to how I have been. And that's partly because of some of the experiences I've had with people that I've worked with and explored opportunities with. I'm a very trusting person. I'm very open. I'm very honest. I'm very helpful, I suppose. And I get excited, not necessarily from financial gain either. So that has led me to not always be in a good position with people, where I've had to like reverse out and get myself out of those situations.
Where do you think, because I feel like this topic is very relatable in many different realms, right? I've gotten myself in a situation where I'm not feeling, and correct me if I'm not hearing this right, but what I'm hearing is I'm not feeling like this is an equal partnership. I'm not feeling like we're on the same page. I'm not feeling like the expectations are the same. So how do you navigate that? Because this is something that typically isn't just a one and done thing. This is something that a lot of us consistently do. And then you had mentioned feeling the imposter syndrome, really feeling like, well, maybe I'm the problem. Maybe I'm not that great at what I do. Really absorbing and internalizing all that. How, if you have gotten through it or, worked through it, because the assumption is, oh, you've gotten through it. Maybe not. Maybe not. How do you deal with that? Or how have you gotten through that over the years?
relationships are the same, whether they're business relationships, friendships, personal relationships. Relationships are relationships, and you have to learn to stick up for yourself. You need to learn where your boundaries are. You need to learn really about you and what you really want out of any relationship, no matter what that relationship is. I
Yes.
think that's my key takeaway, and that's something that's taken me a really long time to really understand. I come from a background where nobody was a business owner. Everyone was an employee. There was no, when I was at school, we didn't talk about becoming an entrepreneur. We didn't talk about becoming leaders or people of any significance. We would, I don't know, we were just expected to get a job, a 9 to 5.
Yep.
So it's really hard to, like I said, I was a accidental entrepreneur. I never actually thought I'm going to become an entrepreneur. Probably a manager of some description, not necessarily an entrepreneur. So yeah, I wasn't ready for that mindset shift that was required for entrepreneurship necessarily. And that's really, I think, where that all kind of stemmed from. So
right. It sounds like, and again, I have a lot of working experience with you. And if I had to describe you, besides all the accolades of your work, you are a very authentic person. You show up, you get stuff done, you do what you say you're going to do, you're all in. That authenticity is a strength. But at the same time, when you have to balance that with authority, when you have to balance that with working with others, that might be challenging, right? So how do you balance that authenticity with the authoritative role, especially as your business has grown? And during COVID, you mentioned you had to, now hire a team. How do you manage that, staying true to what you want to do professionally, who you are personally, your personal ethos, while also managing other people who might have other priorities, yet you're all still working towards the same goal?
Well, for me, it was as though a light switch went on. I wasn't particularly happy. I was, right, that's it. I'm going to get a job. I was actually at that stage, I'm going to get a job. And then there was this strange flu virus that was coming out of China or wherever, and people were getting sick, and COVID hit us. And where everybody else was panicking about their business, I just thought, hang on, this is an opportunity. This is where I step up. I mean, I work virtually. I have done for 15 years. This isn't new to me. What is it that I'm going to do now that's going to change? And I thought, okay, the world's changing. It's time for me to change. And that's when I was like, okay, I'm going to start employing people. I'm going to change my company to Conceptiv, which was kind of like a side name that I'd always played with. It was a stupid name that came from a lecturer at my university, and it was like, it's just a concept. Everything's just a concept. So that's where Conceptiv came from. It was just a phrase, a mock that we used to do with one of my lecturers at uni. So Conceptiv was always in the background. I'd owned the domain all the way through. So I was like, okay, I'm going to see what I can do with this business. And it was just that a light went on, and I pivoted, and I decided that I was going to be that leader. I was no longer going to be an accidental entrepreneur. I had skills, and they were very relevant at the time. And I just thought, okay, now's my time to do something fun. I'm still very accidental. I still flowed. Most of my clients have come through recommendation. all the way through. So that's phenomenal. I've spent 20 years on recommendations.
That is, I have witnessed that firsthand. Like
So
people look at what you do and go, Sarah, who did that wholesale catalog? Who did that website? Who did that packaging? I think there's probably about 8 clients you've gained just from me being at trade shows and people pointing at an asset, a marketing asset, and going, who did that?
absolutely.
Do you think that that's, I guess, to kind of circle back to the authenticity part, having the vast majority of your clients being word of mouth is bananas. Like that's like the goal, but that's like the goal. Everyone, again, in a perfect world, to say, yeah, I don't pay for any marketing. People just find me, but that's your reality. How do you think the authenticity factor kind of pulls the authenticity that you have is a part of this word of mouth referral, the trust people have? Do you think that there's some type of thread there, or you just think, hey, I just do good work and that just must be it?
I think it's a combination of everything you just said. So my typical introduction would be somebody has said, you should speak to Serena. She might be able to help you. And then the next thing that happens is I have a conversation with these people. I learn about them. I learn about their business. I can, because of my past experience of the dot-com era, when I was dabbling in so many different industries, I can relate to what their problems are. I can hear their problems and I can start seeing solutions to their problems that maybe they most of them have already thought of themselves, to be fair. They know their problems. People know what their problems are. They just don't know how to fix them, so they avoid them. The same as what I do in my everyday life. If I don't know how to fix a problem, I avoid it. Um, and that's when being authentic comes through, because I can resonate with them. I can hear them. I can address their problems.
Right. You hear that, like, I have to say that you hear them. So you go in saying, tell me about you before you begin with, let me tell you about you.
Yes.
Is that kind of the correct way to read it?
Absolutely. This is all new to you. This story is new to you. I know this story is new to you. I've never gone down too much of a road about who I am or where I've come from or anything. And we've known each other for the past, I'm gonna guess, 4 years.
No, I'd say it's like 6. Like you are a lady of mystery when it comes to like the background of, because it's like I see your output, right? And I see like every single project we work on or you do for referrals, like she blew it out of the water again. And people always ask me, they go, who is she? Like she gets it. She says she was in tech, but she also can like design, like her life depends on it. But she also is like really approachable. Like she gets it. And so you have all these things, but I have to imagine COVID happens, you build this team. This is a whole new wheelhouse to you, right? You kind of are adding it to your repertoire of who Serena is. And so let me ask, in really building up Conceptiv, 2 questions. One, I'm sure you've had a bad client. We all have. Lots of them. Because no one really ever talks about that. They talk about
I've had some amazing clients too, though. Amazing.
You would not be in business if you did not have amazing people, because you'd either get burnt out or you just wouldn't get hired because everyone didn't see your beautiful vision. So we understand that there's a lot of those gems that you've worked with, but tell me, how do you navigate working with bad clients? How do you navigate, is all money good money? Is every opportunity a good opportunity? How do you navigate that part of business where you have to deal with someone that you're not vibing with or that has a different expectation? What's your process behind that?
Well, in my early days, I would have said all money is good money. That's so not true.
Okay.
Absolutely not true. You get the best out of me when you're kind, and genuine with me. I've been very lucky in the last few years in the fact that, my job has, my career, my company has been relatively stable. I've had a nice flow of clients coming in and out, and I've had some wonderful projects. And I've also had this ability to be able to say no and to walk away and to only work with people I like. And
what was that word again? Wait, say it again. Say that word that is that word?
Only work with people you like and trust.
Yes. Yes.
It's a two-way stream. People buy from you because they know, like, and trust you. Mm-hmm. You also have, as a business owner, you also have that privilege to work with people you know, like, and trust. And I think that's
saying no. Saying no is something that how difficult is it for you to say no? Because we all want to say no. We all want to put up the boundary, right? We all want to, but it's hard. It's hard. So you mentioned saying no. How does Serena say no? I mean, walk me through it. Is it because I think that's really the meat of it. It's like, yeah, I know I need to say no, but how the hell do I do it? Like, this is I don't want to disappoint this person. Am I upfront with it? Do I hide it in an email? Do I have a conversation? Do I just ghost these people? Like, there's a lot of ways to say no, verbally and non-verbally. What process works for you where you can sleep good at night, knowing that no was conveyed and knowing that it felt like it was the right choice?
I'm not sure. It depends on the relationship I have with the person. The same as, like, any relationship. Once again, is exactly the same. Treat everybody as though you're that you have that relationship with them. Whatever that relationship looks like is the same thing. So, some people deserve ghosting.
Facts. Thank you for being honest. It was like, oh, I do it no, sometimes it's like, get out. You're done. Get to the bottom of the email list. We don't need you. Like, I imagine
I'm a natural people pleaser. I am a natural people pleaser. I like to please people. There's no secret. So I do go above and beyond. So it's not always about ghosting. Sometimes it's just a case of, oh, I don't have time for this project. This isn't something I want to take on. This is a conversation. But it does depend on who they are, how they've approached me, how they've treated me. Sometimes it's a genuine, I don't have time for this project, or this project, I'm getting tougher as I grow up. She says, one day I'm going to be a full-grown adult here, and I'm going to be leading where I go, as opposed to letting things take me there. So, and one of the things I have learned is through all these years is that you do have to say no if it doesn't fit in with where you want to go. It's no good realizing somebody else's dream if your dream isn't ever going to be realized.
That, I feel like that's like, can we quote that? Can I just this was like back in like the MySpace days. Can I just have that be the banner? Like, quotes from Reynolds. That's a good one. Like, let me ask you something, because I know I've known that, with the rise of Fiverr, with the rise of a lot of these kind of cheapy one and done, easy. I have to imagine that a lot of your no's come from clients who expect Serena to be the Fiverr, get it done for $10, get it done. I want 10 revisions for $10. And being the ambitious person you are, I imagine, it's hard to pass up projects that maybe seem interesting, but yet the expectation is of a Fiverr style of design. So how do you feel about, is there intimidation that now everyone's a website designer? Is there empowerment in that, well, wait, I know where my role in this market, but how do you kind of grapple with where the industry's at now, where everyone can build a website, everyone can create emails?
There's universal truth. Everybody can do anything.
Mm-hmm.
you know, given enough time, experience and stuff, we can all learn to do these things. But the truth is, I have that experience. I have that behind me. I have that history. And companies like Fiverr aren't really an intimidation for any real designer, web person, professional. Fiverr is just something that exists. And if people want to go to Fiverr, they're never going to come to me. They will go to Fiverr, and that is perfectly okay. And I'm very happy to send them there.
Right. Do you think did you always have that feeling, or is that something that you've built over time? That kind of, if you want this, then I'm not your cup of tea.
Like I said, in the early days, all money was good money.
Yeah.
And somebody would come up to me and have a problem. I would give them a solution. And I would take the job. I've learned from then that from there that not all pound dollar is created equal. There's different styles to work. I've spent a long time perfecting how I work with people and trying to drive the narrative into something. Sorry?
What does that look like? When you said
putting processes in place. You said last week about being a business owner, build a process, teach somebody else to do it, and then find something else to work on. So that's very true. Building the processes to speed up, streamline, and to define what it is that I do, as opposed to saying, yes, I'll do it to whatever it was.
Yes, we've all been there. Yes. And then
the new shiny object syndrome that I suffer from is a bit of an issue. I love to find out new things. I love to delve in a little bit deeper. I love to constantly learn and innovate. But there's got to be a process behind that.
Right. That makes perfect sense. And then through all this journey, we're getting to, Serena, the accidental entrepreneur, the accidental businesswoman. Now you're owning it. You're owning who you are. If you had to give your younger self, the Serena who was on the train for, 3 hours each way on that junior salary, if you had to give her a piece of advice, what would it be?
Get off that train, girl. And go and do something for yourself.
First of all, I love that advice to your younger self. It was like so aggressive, but in such a British way. It's like, get off that train, girl. It was like, that's the nicest way for anyone to yell at you.
No, honestly, I think it's about finding your own worth. I'm not a Fiverr. I'm not a Fiverr girl. It's just that simple. I don't work that way. I'm never going to. If I don't understand your business, then I can't help you. If I can't understand where you want to get to, I can't help you. That's what Fiverr does. Fiverr will spit out artwork for you. That's not what I do. And I don't want it to be. So I think if I was to give myself any real advice, right in the early years, I heard somebody say the other day, so our podcast is Fearless and Flawed.
Yep.
So I've been listening to lots of different podcasts and things like that, and there was something about being courageous. So I'm tying this in with fearless here, about being courageous. And courageous isn't about being scared. It's about doing it anyway. And that's what being courageous is. That's what being fearless is. So I think that would be my key takeaway. That would be my key advice is it doesn't matter if you're scared. Do it anyway. I've got nothing to lose. You've got nothing to lose. I'm doing this podcast now and I'm a behind the scenes gal. I don't do this upfront thing. I don't talk about myself. I don't even talk about my own business. Most people don't even know who my other clients are. I'm very private. Like confidentiality is of utmost importance to me and my ethos and who I am. So, but that doesn't mean I have to stay silent or behind the wall. And if I really want my business to go where I want it to be, I need to be more fearless. I need to step forward. I need to show my flaws as well, if I'm perfectly honest with you. I need to show that I'm human and that I do fail and things aren't always great, but it is what it is. And that's what makes me fearless.
Yes. You literally took the words that I was going to say. What does fearless mean to you? Like, you nailed it. That makes perfect sense. Where is Serena at today? You know, you've built the business, you have all these great clients, word of mouth. What does the future look like for you? You know, now you have this, it's almost like this coat of armor of really like empowerment. When you tell me about the journey, it's like, I know who I am. I know who I want to work with. What does the next step look like? Is it building out a bigger team for Conceptiv? Is it taking on different types of projects, i.e. this podcast?
I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure. I don't particularly want to grow my team much bigger. I have a great little team. I think it's more about controlling the destiny of my company. I want to be able to sell one day. I want to retire. That's
say that again. Wait, retire? Wait,
retire.
What? You
not anytime soon. Not anytime soon. Okay, I'm not that old yet. But I want to sell my company. I want this to be something of a legacy, something that I can pass down. I want to build processes that will help. I love helping people. I love helping people. I want to continue doing that for much, much longer.
When you said
and
I love
by building processes so I can help more people.
Mm-hmm. That's so you. Like helping people, that's literally what you do. It's almost scary. Like you will be up at like 2 a.m. and I'll be like, please go to sleep. And you're like, no, I just really wanted to tweak this and make it better because I really believe in it. That's you.
Yeah.
But that comes from that desire to help. That comes from that desire, like you had mentioned earlier. I think sometimes we see people pleasing as being, you know, a negative thing, right? I mean, naturally it has that negative connotation, but if we flip that over, it's really just a desire to help. To some degrees, there's that desire that drives the people pleasing. And so, you know, in the next chapter for Conceptiv or for Serena, there's retirement in the future. In the future, there's a small team, but
it's a long-term goal.
Long-term.
It's a short-term goal.
But we talk a lot about long-term plans, right? Like everyone starts a business and wants to hit 1 million or break even in the first year. That's usually not how it goes. We need the long-term plan, and then it's small bites to get there, to build the greatness that leads to retirement, which isn't a given for everybody. Now, you know, nowadays that's not necessarily the expectation that everybody has. Some people will say, I have to, you know, work myself until the last day I'm here. Unfortunately, that's where we're at. But you're saying, I want to keep this small team. I've learned these lessons. I'm enjoying the people I'm working with. The imposter syndrome, I have to imagine, and all that doubt, does that still come up every now and then, or has that been eliminated?
Oh, yes. Of course. Yes.
Of course.
Of course, you know, it's part of who I am. It's part of what makes me who I am. Of course.
Do you think that that's part of the authenticity part too? Is even like your strong yes to that is so authentic to me, because it's like, yeah, of course, hello, duh. Like, would you believe someone who's like, no, I always feel deeply reassured of who I am at every moment? You'd be like, you're kind of crazy, but that's fine. Or you're lucky. Right? Like that's just the reality of it. And so as we kind of continue this journey, doing this podcast, the story of Conceptiv is so great in terms of kind of the accidental entrepreneur, building something great, having COVID being the springboard for really honing in on what Conceptiv is, what they offer. When it comes to other entrepreneurs, other women in charge, when it comes to the person that we talk to next week, what's one question, if you could ask that next female leader on our podcast, any question, what would it be? Personal, about how navigating personal life, navigating business life. Now, what is that question from Serena Reynolds?
So, being completely authentic, I actually posed this question to Sarah as a question for our podcast, and I never planned an answer.
That's true. So, she literally sent me this question to ask, and here we are. What's the answer?
Would it be really fun to have the last guest ask the first question to the next guest? Yeah. And I really genuinely never thought that that she would ask me this.
I loved it. But here's the thing. It can even be, what's your favorite ice cream flavor? Like, it doesn't need to be, I think we sometimes think of like this one mammoth question, what does struggle mean to you? Maybe it can be, this is the time to be as authentic as you want to be. It can be like, what's your favorite hobby? Or it could be like, what's your...
My question is going to be, it's going to be really, really simple. And it is, where do you want to be in 10 years' time?
I love it.
Because at the end of the day, it's not about today. It's not about tomorrow. It's the long journey. This entrepreneur thing is the long run. And the answer can possibly be sitting on the beach drinking gin and tonics. Just my favorite drink.
I can co-sign
that. Yeah. So yeah, that would be my question. That would be the question I'd pretty much ask any client or any prospective client is, where do you want to be? Where do you want to see this going? And that's really where the driver is I want to know where people want to get to.
And then the final question, because as you're saying this, now that you've mentioned a couple of times that this is something new and different for you, doing this podcast, being on camera and really telling your story is very kind of front of the house, and you're more of a back of the house type of gal. There's plenty of people who are going to be like, okay, I can relate to that. Serena, you're so well spoken, but again, you admittedly are someone who prefers to be behind the curtain. Now that you've done it, you've told your story. Are you a ball of nerves? Are you going to go down that bottle of gin? Are you going to go? Actually, let's drink the gin, good or bad, right? I guess the answer is always gin. But how are you feeling now that you actually in the last, let's say 45 minutes, hour or so, you've stepped out of your comfort zone? How is this feeling? Is it still scary? Is it enlightening?
Actually, it's totally scary. Absolutely. This is not something. So off camera, I'm very different, and I can have meetings, I can have conversations with people, and I come across as a relatively intelligent human being. And I feel the moment I'm in front of this camera, I feel like a idiot. Like, my tongue feels 3 times as fat in my mouth, and I can't quite get my words out, and brain fog, and I've forgotten where I'm going with my conversation. This isn't who I am. This is just the situation I've put myself into. I'm much more comfortable I'm very comfortable having conversations with people. I see myself as a introverted extrovert. I've seen. So I'm very happy to make a loud noise and be seen and heard, and but don't put me on stage to do it, because that's not where I belong. It's really that simple. I'm quite happy sitting back, letting other people be the protagonist. So
you've done it.
I'm doing it.
That's proof you're doing it. When people, I think sometimes when you hear these conversations or you see these videos, it's like, oh, it's so easy to think, oh, well, of course, of course they must have confidence in doing it because they're doing it, right? So the natural understanding is, if someone puts one foot in front of the other, then they must be comfortable in it because they're physically doing it, as opposed to just daydreaming about it. But by doing it now, and it's scary and it's flawed, right? Any conversation we have, it's flawed. It's not perfect. We'll probably listen to this and go, "Oh God, why did I say that? Oh, I was breathing too heavy when I was exclaiming." We might critique ourselves in the future, but we're doing it now. And so where do you kind of see in this final question, where do you kind of see now in doing this, in challenging yourself to kind of say, this isn't comfortable, but I'm going to do it? How do you feel like that will, in the bigger picture of Serena's life, affect that little thing inside your head that says, I don't want to do it, it's scary? How do you use these types of moments to challenge that?
Well, to start off, I would say that this is not my natural habitat. But I am fearless. Mm-hmm. I am strong. I am independent. I am all of the wonderful things that we aspire to be. I am those things. I know that. I also understand business. I also understand where people need to go with their businesses. And sometimes I need to listen to myself about my own business. Now, I have talked about my team. I have talked a little bit about, long-term goals, eventually selling Conceptiv, having something real to talk about, my history, my past, something solid, more concrete. At the moment, I've spent 20 years working off recommendations, which is wonderful, but that's me. People buy into me. I can't always be that if I want to grow my business. I need to put my business first. I need to be the face, the voice. I need to be something else than the person that's always behind the screen working. I need to step up, and I need to look after my team. I need to look after my business. And this is part of that journey. I need to spread my network beyond who my clients or friends already know. I need to be beyond that. And so I'm being fearless. This is what this is about. I'm being fearless. I'm taking my and also it's my passion. I mean, we're talking about women in charge on this podcast. So I genuinely feel as though being female, I was in a very male-dominated world for the very first part of my career. Like, I was in an office with like over 100 people. There was 3 females. That's how male-dominated my world was. And has definitely affected my self-confidence and things over the time. Because no matter where I was in that company, I was still asked to make the coffee. So, and I was young, and I'd make the coffee. So yeah, and I want to share my experience. I want to pass that on. I want to grow my network. I want to talk to people. I want to be the fearless leader. I want to be somebody in charge of my own destiny, my own company, my own everything. I am becoming this person.
Wow. I love it. Like, listen, I already loved you before we did this podcast, but hearing the other side of you and the rawness of it. And like you said, the extroverted introvert, which a lot of people can relate to. It's like, I'm introverted, but like, that doesn't mean I can't, have a conversation and be lively and be passionate and be excited. So kudos to you for, we did it. You've told me the story. I have learned so much about you, more behind the scenes about you than I have in like 6 years. And I've asked, but you humbly have always said, it's a long story. And I'm like, you're going to tell the story because it's worth telling. Someone out there, when we listen, it doesn't matter if they're exactly the same personality type or exactly the same industry. There's so many layers there that as a woman in charge, you go, yeah, I can relate to that. Oh yeah, that makes perfect sense. Or that struggle was my own. So thank you, Serena, for telling us the journey that you have had with Conceptiv, We will hold you to retirement. So we'll check back in.
Eventually.
About 40 years, you know, yeah. We'll check back in. Like, where is she now?
I have a fabulous team behind me, supporting me through all of this.
Yes.
You're all in good hands.
Exactly. This is fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing your story. And when it comes to the third episode of the podcast, we will be sure to ask whoever we are interviewing where they see themselves in 10 years. But this has been wonderful, Serena. I've got to see another layer of you, and it's been wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Sarah, for being gentle with me.
Yeah, listen, girl, gentle. That I could never. Here's the thing: it's easy to be gentle with people who, the authenticity, the work ethic, the humanity that you bring to the table. I mean, I've seen you under pressure, and I've seen you always choose the right path. You know, when it would be easy to throw someone under the bus, or easy just, you know, to exploit maybe a confused or an uneducated client, you've never chosen that path. You've never chosen that, which is why I recommend you all the time. So I think being gentle with you, how else could I be? I like you. You know, like you're a good person. So this was, for me, talking to a friend. That's all it was. So it was wonderful.
I look forward to having many more conversations with lots of friends.
Yes. Well, this concludes our second episode, and you know, we'll keep perfecting it. We'll keep making sure the questions beforehand, I tell you that I'll ask, so that at the end, when I'm like, where do you see yourself? What's the next question you'd ask? You're semi-prepared, or maybe not. Maybe that's the flawed part of this podcast.
Maybe that's the authenticity.
Maybe that's what it is. Sometimes when it's too rehearsed and it's too well thought out, you're listening and going, wow, they have it so together. No, they just knew the questions 3 months before. You know, we want to keep things flowing and moving, but there is a little bit of, let me figure this out on the spot and see what I can do with it. Right?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Sarah.
Thank you, Serena. This has been a pleasure and a delight.
See you next week.
Awesome. See you next week.